This is Real Sports Talk, Rumack and the Greek, featuring Billy the Greek and Stormin Norman Rumack. Brought to you by the good people at Cosa and Carpets for Life.
Well, hello, everybody. Week, maybe you're watching delay. Anyway, I'm Stormin Norm Rumack along with Billy the Greek, Georgia Sakis, and we're here to have a rare and good time, trash talking each other, raising hell. Can I say hell? I think I can say it. Hell's not a CRTC violation. It's not a nice word, but I can say it. Anyways, we're going to talk about the Maple Leafs, the NFL, and the World Series. So we got lots to talk about, and we thank our sponsors at Cosa, our good buddy Nick. I call him the king of carpets because that's what he is. But anyway, we got some great sponsors, and we're down at the Bottom Line Restaurant, 22 Front Street West, just a stone's throw from Union Station, Scotiabank Arena, the Rogers Center, all the big sports venues right down here. So we're glad to have you with us. Thanks for tuning us in. And, well, I know there's a few frustrated Leafs fans after this most horrific road show, which was pretty awful and pretty bad when you have a 3-1 lead over the last place, and it is 10 games.
Hold on, what did you say?
10 games.
Oh, okay.
10 games in. Well, at least I'm being honest and forthright as always. So it's only 10 games in, but, and it's a big butt, Billy. A big butt. The biggest butt you've ever seen. Well, maybe not. It's blowing. Billy, have I ever talked to you about the Leafs blowing leads? Have I brought that up as a topic once in a while on our prestigious podcast?
Let me ask you something. How long you been a Leaf fan?
Well, I'm 67 now, so I'd say since
Just a simple
we'll
question. I don't need a
off.
1 hour essay, man.
We'll round it off to 63 years.
63 years.
64 years, yeah.
So as a
yeah.
long-suffering Leaf fan, you know, I could tell by looking at you, life's done a toll on you. So as a
Wait a second. How about you?
How about me,
Hey,
man?
look at he blew dry his chest hair.
Yeah.
I'm going to compliment him. He used the blow dryer on his chest hair.
There ain't no chest hair, pal. So let me ask you something.
Yeah. Yes.
Were you alive and present during the glorious times that consisted of? Hey, keep it down. I'm live here. I'm talking. Were you alive and well?
Yes.
During the glorious times of the Toronto Maple Leaf franchise that included the likes of first-round picks, Bobby McGill, Jim Benning. Were you around? Were you around when the franchise player and the franchise line was consisted of John Anderson, Danny Daou, and Bill Derlago? Were you there?
I was there.
All right. So you were there.
I was there.
So
I've seen everything there is to see.
So if you're honest for once, instead of given the fact that Roger sent you on your keister and your anti-Leafs, I'm
not anti-Leafs. I tell it like it is.
I'm a neutral observer, man, and I'm just going to tell the people exactly what it is that they're seeing. Obviously, the club's a little flawed. Got a little issues, right?
A little flawed.
Look, you spent 4 long days in Vegas, Norm Rumack, after that Vegas game. Right? Yeah. And you know the boys, they're whatever the case is. Let's just say it was not the best of West Coast trips.
Yeah, but every team goes to Vegas, so what's that got to do with it?
Here's what I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
That you're a 12.5% into the season.
Yeah.
Do you think it's rather early to ring the alarm bells, to call for coaches? Like I'm listening to some guys.
Never.
Hold on.
Never.
It's never early?
Never. It's never too early to be early.
Now you're being silly. I'm asking you a serious question. Calm down a little bit. I know
you're excited. I'm going to wipe that smile off my face. Never. How's that?
You're 10 games into a season. You want to fire the coach. You want to fire the GM. You want to fire. You want them all out of town because you had a bad road trip. Don't you think you're being a little bit? Don't you think you're overreacting a little bit?
Well, Billy, let me ask you. Okay, let me ask you.
Be serious.
Let me ask
you. It's a serious program.
10 games in, what excites you about this Maple Leafs?
All right, I'll tell you what excites me. Yeah. 10 games in, Tampa Bay is 4 wins, 4 losses. Should they fire their coach? Same record
and
as
what
the
way,
Leafs.
other than that, other than the 10 games, how does Tampa Bay compare to Toronto?
I'm asking you. The record Should Tampa Bay, Colorado, former stand? I'm talking.
The record is the Stanley Cups.
We're talking about this year, though.
No, but we're talking about every year.
Listen,
Colorado's
4-4. Should they fire Sakic?
Billy, you gave me this exact same lame as could be argument going into the playoffs last year. You said, "Oh, Tampa Bay, they're not hungry for."
What did you say when it was 3-2 and the Leafs had them 1 inch from death? You said the same thing to me. I
said the Lightning weren't playing well.
No, you said the Leafs looked like they got him by the throat. I got the message.
And then they folded.
So in other words, you took the Stanley Cup would-be finalist to the pinnacle.
The pinnacle.
You lost in Game 7 because Nick Paul played on the wrong team.
It doesn't matter why. It matters that they lost.
Matter now. Make up your mind, man.
You said Tampa Bay. You said Tampa Bay was tired of winning. They didn't have the hunger. They didn't have the desire. And then they watched the podcast and they said, "We're going to show Billy a thing or two." And they did. And mind you, the year before. Oh, and you also said, like the Burton Cummings song, although it had a different meaning. You know who Burton Cummings is? Lead singer of the Guess Who. He sang a song called Stand Tall, but I don't think it was about hockey. It was about something else.
What? At this point in time, I'd rather be part of a rival network's wrestling show, man.
2 weeks ago, a week ago, you said the Leafs were standing tall because they were tough, because they could fight. And after coming home from Anaheim, how tall? Give me some feet, some yards. How tall are they standing now, Billy?
So you went through a death valley out in the West there. Some of the toughest clubs, right? No matter
the toughest clubs.
All jokes aside, it's never for an Eastern club. It's never
No, the tough part's when you come home, not going out there.
A road trip out west.
No, it's time. It's coming home because of the time.
So here's another thing that's got under my eye a little bit. Obviously, not the greatest of efforts when it comes to the game against Anaheim. Much has been said on this show, previous shows, and throughout the media about Mitch Marner about his little hissy fit. Did you have a problem with Mitch Marner reacting in that fashion? Because a lot of people did. I'm curious as to why.
No, okay. I guess I'm different. I don't focus on that kind of stuff because
I didn't ask if you focused on it. I asked your opinion.
Well, I just gave you my freaking opinion. I said I don't focus on it. That means
what do you focus on, man? What do you focus on? The
I'm watching the game.
At home?
I'm watching the game when Anaheim wins in overtime. Saying I'd like to have a pair of binoculars so I can see Billy's kisser right now.
I asked the guy a question, so I asked a serious question. What do you focus? He goes, I don't focus on that. What do you focus on? Pornhub? Jesus, man, you're a sports announcer. What do you focus on?
I was sponsored by Ripper Joints for 20
Ripper
years.
Joints,
Do you think I
don't
need that?
Ask the guy hockey question. I don't focus on that. No way. What do you focus on, Norm? What do you focus on?
Whatever comes to mind. Anyway. But no, seriously.
What do you want? What are you looking for? What are you telling Leaf fans that an autopsy?
I'm telling you,
should be conducted?
I'm telling you. I don't have to tell them. They think like I do. I bet you we were survey Leafs Nation, our good buddy James Foley. I'll bet you. We'll ask James. Should bring him on sometime. Ask him. I'll bet you 90% of Leaf fans are getting. They're like, scratching the fingers, biting the nails a little bit. Is like,
what was their record last year at the same time?
Who cares? Nobody cares.
It's 10 games in.
I'm here
Let me
to
ask
tell
you a question.
Ask Leafs Nation guys to write in or to send.
I think
how many of them are feeling good about what they're seeing so far?
All right. Question for you.
Thank you, Leafs Nation and James Foley.
We did a preview and we had decided in unison that the Boston Bruins this year would be a shambles of themselves.
Well, I didn't say shambles.
Yeah, you said they'll take a back step. So 10 games in, they're 9-1. So should we anoint them now? This is what makes me sick and tired about society in general. We're such an... I'm talking. Please, have a little bit of courtesy. Please.
Yes, boss.
Have we regressed to the point in time where we've lived in such an instant gratification world that we decide the future based on 20 minutes, a third period, an opening segment of the games? All teams have ebbs and flows. All teams go through peaks and valleys. We're going to talk about the Phillies. Game 3's rained out tonight. But the Phillies, Norm, 10-20% into the season, were in the cellar. They made a coaching change. Is that what you're suggesting? You want a coaching change? Because a lot of guys That's what they're talking about. Is that what you
Well,
want? 10 games in?
I'll tell you what. Give them another 10 games, but not much more than that. Because if it goes on like this another 10 games, they've got a big problem. They've got a really big problem. I'm here to tell you that another 10 games at most is where the line will be drawn if this continues. I'll wager you some of your Vegas money on that. If something doesn't change in terms of performance overall in the next 10 games, I'm here to tell you the Leafs have a big problem. Yes. And I'll bet you mostly.
Why don't we instead of focusing the obvious, because obviously in a parity-driven hockey league, every club, aside from a couple, you can make a case, have holes within the roster. It's generally clubs are constructed the same way. You got about 5-6 guys that can play, and then you got about 14 guys trying to augment a roster. That's how clubs are built in a salary cap world. The Leafs are no different than others. So forget your phone. I'm talking. Stop ignoring me. It's important.
I can hear you.
All right. So
my ears are sore.
What do you suggest? Let's work in a solution, in a solution portion of this show. So if you're in Kyle Dubas's spot, you got here. How do you resolve this issue? What do you do moving forward, or is it just the guys that you have got to start playing at a higher level?
Well, Billy. I mean, we've dissected the Dubas, what he's got to do thing, but obviously he's not inclined, and there's the one of the very few areas you and I have ever agreed on. He's got to correct his mistake from years ago about having what is it? 70% of his cap is usurped on his top 4 forwards. Well, that leaves you no money to add depth to your blue line, to add depth to your 3rd and 4th line. And quite frankly, Billy.
So you're telling You're telling a homeless guy that he's homeless and what he has to do. So what do we do here?
Well, I'm saying
you've already stated the problem. So what's your solution, Norman? You got all the answers. All right, you stated the problem. What's your solution?
He has to trade one of his big gunners to get the help he needs elsewhere, but that's not something new. I've been saying it for years.
All right, and where would you start?
So I'm not saying right today. But
I'm not today? No. But you just told me it's 10 games.
I said I would
panic.
Billy, I'm the one who predicted the Leafs would struggle in the first round of the playoffs the last 2 years. You're the one who anointed them the Stanley Cup 2 years ago.
Yeah, you took Tampa Bay to 7 games into.
It doesn't matter. They lost.
You struggled.
Billy, you don't get a replica cup because you went to 7 games.
All right.
Not in the World Series. You don't get a replica Super Bowl.
I'm sick and tired of you guys. I'm sick and tired of you bandwagon guys.
The Falcons don't get a replica Super Bowl because they scared New England.
Yeah, first of all, I can't stress enough how impatient and obviously
patient.
I'm not going to talk, or I'm going to talk to myself.
Well, what do you call impatient? Tell me what's impatient.
You're 12.5%. Into your season. That's 1 in 8. You're a little bit early off a West Coast trip where you struggled a little bit, where you give points away to lesser clubs.
Bit. It's a lot. Right?
You're still 10 games into the year, man. Have to relax a little bit. Everything will unfold. All the worrying in the world's not going to happen. Listen, here's what's going to happen. No matter how you slice it, Keith, Dubas, Shanahan are going nowhere. You're going to stop looking for Barry Trotz to walk through the bottom line and to take this leap. Stop talking about Rick Tocchet. Stop talking about this guy. You had Babcock in here. You fired him. They got rid of him. And I was on board with that. You have Keith. Obviously, the issue here is pretty simple, Norm Rumack. It's 10 games into the year and you haven't played your best hockey yet. You run off 8 of your next 10 and you know what you're going to have. You're going to have a different outlook, but for people like you, it doesn't matter what happens to the regular season.
That's right.
So what's the point?
And for 90% of the people watching, for 90%, so I don't care, Leafs Nation, whatever. For 90% of them, Billy, the only thing they care about is the playoffs. There's an assumption that they'll be in the playoffs, but Billy, even you agreed. Because you can't
tell me what I agree or disagree.
I know what you agreed. You agreed. Buffalo and Montreal were going to be better. They are better. There's very few pushovers. That means just getting a playoff spot this year is not like a piece of cake. You can't just coast. You can't have 10, 15 games. Whatever. We'll be okay.
So the Leafs through their first 10 or 4-4 in 4-4 and 2,
Well,
and you want to write that. You want to write the season
the
off.
whole point.
What
No.
do you want? 82-0. Even then, you're not
Well,
happy.
well,
you had an MVP here
well,
last
Billy,
year. You set a record.
Billy,
in points.
the point.
You're not happy.
The point is.
Meanwhile, you came
the
on the
point
radio
is-
and you told me that Peter Intercheck was the greatest thing since sliced bread,
I
and
did
now
not.
you're down on Matthews and Marner and Tavares and
Peter
Nylander. Who
when-
in your hold
when-
on, man? In your life, those guys are
I
generational
never
players.
said a word
You
about Peter
followed a
Intercheck.
club that's. You want Peter Ing in that, man. Like, take it easy.
I
I'm
never.
tired.
Hey, I never said Peter Intercheck. B, I never said Peter Ing.
Eh?
And B, I wasn't on the radio when they were there.
Yeah, man.
So there, Billy.
Where were you? Notre Dame?
Your histoire, to use the French word,
Histoire,
is a-
man.
is a
Histoire.
little
What's
bit-
up, Motor? How you doing, man? We're gonna have you on soon. We're gonna rectify all this stuff. And there he is, the owner.
So no, that's quite. In all seriousness, I know we're having some fun here, but in all seriousness, Billy, the problem is, as we've talked about, the NHL does have that parity. So now Ottawa is harder to play against. Montreal is way harder to play against. Buffalo even harder to play against. I'm just saying it gives you less wiggle room for a tough start for a 10-game
Oh,
streak.
jeez.
It does, Billy.
Last year they started with the same record, ended
But
up
Billy,
with a franchise
last
record
year,
in points.
last year,
What's
you could-
different? Did they have anybody different?
Last year, you could steal points from Montreal
You
and
can-
Buffalo
how-
and Ottawa.
Hold on now.
And this year,
That's funny you
it's
said-
way
it's-
harder.
It's funny you said that because
Yeah.
last year the Leafs struggled against Buffalo. They
Well,
didn't beat them once.
And this year,
Montreal,
Buffalo's about a
yeah.
trillion times better.
So
That's the whole
So
point.
in other words, guys like you want to just point fingers at everybody, like with a small sample size, right? It's not 67 years, pal. It's 10 games. Relax, take it easy, breathe a little bit. And if you, as a Leaf fan, if I, as a Leaf supporter or a pundit, whatever you want to call me, if I bring the same team to the dance come trade deadline
Yeah.
or playoffs, then talk to me. Obviously, the team that's constructed today is not a serious or a viable contender to win any championship, but it's game 10. Things can change. When you have some talent up front and you have a history
Yeah.
and you can run off some games in a row, talk to me during the trade deadline. And if the Leafs
Trade
and
deadline's way off.
yeah,
That
there
might-
you
that
go.
might
That's
be-
what I'm looking at. That's where I'm.
But that might be too late.
No, it's not too late, man.
Well, it might be.
Do you think a club that's loading the front end is not going to go on a run and win some hockey games? What do you think they're going to do? Lose 20 games in a row?
I don't know what they're going to
I'm
do. How do
telling
you know?
What do you mean? How do I know? I get paid to know these things. As opposed to you, I watch sports. I don't surf BEG and Pornhub and this all night, man. I follow sports.
I
pal.
actually haven't watched those channels.
Yeah.
But if I do, I'll invite you over. Bill.
Yeah,
Would
man.
Would you want to come over and watch?
You know what, Norm, man?
But no, I don't watch those channels.
Oh, geez.
But I've been, like I said, folks, the bottom line.
Is you got problems. There's problems. There's problems in Leafland.
Yeah, I'm just saying. And I'm saying this year the problems are going to be harder to mask and harder to overcome because of the greater, looks like there's going to be way more parity in the National Hockey Ball, at least in the Eastern Conference.
You
there is.
cannot draw assumptions on the future of any club in such a small sample size. So what's what I'm
Well,
telling you? If we have this have this conversation, if we
Yeah.
have this conversation,
Yeah.
and I see similar things from the blue and white,
Yeah.
a month from now, a month and a half.
And
If
you'll
I
say what?
at this point in time, what I will tell you,
Yeah.
if I see similar things at this point in time, what I'm going to tell you
Yeah.
is it's time to abort the mission and it's time to fire everybody and anybody and start giving the.
Yeah, but that usually doesn't happen. You're talking about everybody. That usually, I mean, you don't usually fire your GM in the middle of the year. Coach, yeah, okay, that can happen.
So
And
in
then-
that case,
and then who are you going to get to replace him in
listen.
the middle of the year?
So the question is, no matter what you do, hi Selena, happy birthday the other day. Forgot to reach out to you. What you're gonna do at this point in time is just ride the wave. Ride the wave, see where it goes. You don't have much flexibility as it is in terms of acquisitions. And if you notice, there's not a club in hockey that's making any kind of deals, that's making any kind of
course not.
acquisitions.
Not yet.
Hey, 10 games in, yeah.
No, but
and here in Leafland, everybody
Well,
wants. What do you want? You want
just-
what? You want to solve issues 10 games into a season.
Well,
Relax.
Well, you can say relax, but you were saying last year, way ahead of the playoffs, when I was talking, you thought I was going way overboard on talking about their blown leads. And you said, Leaf fans and me, it was like you said, relax, enjoy the process. Well, after April 15th last year, did any Leaf fan enjoy the process? Yeah. of
Yeah,
course
hold
there-
on.
Yeah.
Hold on. There was 31 other teams that didn't enjoy the process either, man.
Leaf fans don't give a rat's ass about the 31 other 30 teams.
You act like you're the only. You act like the Leafs are the only club in hockey.
Leaf fans don't think that way. They think
you know what, Leaf fans?
They only care about their team. They don't.
You know what? I'll tell you why. Leaf fans, you know what they want? Because they've been so starved for not only team success but for individual success. Now that they have some bona fide front of the line players, Leaf fans don't want to win and compete. Leaf fans think, and they're delusional, that they should be dominating opposition, that they should be wiping the slate with everybody they play. Take it easy. You're not that kind of club. You have some nice pieces. You have some nice players. You'll be better with Liljegren in there. Well, Samsonov hasn't done nothing to draw criticism.
Yeah, but put it this way, Billy. Leaf fans would be less uptight about a situation like this if they had a team that was a proven playoff, some measure of, well, they would. That's the way it goes. I can tell you because I experienced that as a young, let me tell you, younger Leaf fan.
Don't please no love stories longer than 30 seconds.
Okay, man. The 70s Maple Leafs, Sittler, McDonald, Turnbull, Salming, Mike Palmateer, etc. The Leafs.
Did Janeček play on that team? Did Miro Janeček play on that team?
No, okay. No, and neither did Peter Ingram. No? I don't think so. Anyway, my point is this. The 70s Leafs would sometimes flounder in the regular season. Yeah. You know, they would sometimes lose to the Cleveland Barons, Billy. Do you remember them? They wore a brown shirt, almost like the Cleveland, and had a map of the state of Ohio. Okay. Anyways, but we didn't care because we knew the Leafs would overachieve a little bit in the play, which they did. 76, 77, they're playing the Flyers. The Broad Street
I said 30 seconds, man. You're going on 2 minutes now. What do you want, revisionist history about the mid-70s Leafs? We're in 2021.
I'm saying,
you're trying to draw comparisons
to the 78 Islanders. They beat the 78 Islanders, Billy. And they had no business beating the 78 Islanders. So what I'm telling you is they overachieved in the playoffs in the 70s, even though they had so regular season. So that's why Leaf fans then had more confidence because they knew they would step it up in the playoffs. That is my whole point. So now you can appreciate my lengthy lecture. Thank you. Did you enjoy that, Billy?
I didn't hear a word you said. Can you repeat yourself?
Yes.
No, actually, that's the last thing that I want to do.
Hey, you only got 30 more minutes.
Look, the long and the short of it is there cause for concern, not necessarily for the start, but is there cause for concern given it appears to me they don't have the necessary bullets to create a championship, especially on the back end. Like a guy like Justin Hall can't be playing 22, 23 minutes a game. You saw Sandin giveaways, young guys put in difficult positions.
But that's why I said about why Dubas has to finally do something to fix this situation where his salary cap money is tied up on 4 players because he has no flexibility.
That's what I've been saying for the last 5 years, Norm. But that's not the issue at this point in time. What's done is done. The issue is at this point in time, when's the proper time to draw that panic button? Is it right to draw the panic button 10 games into a year? Is it right? Or is it a little bit
Billy,
you know a thing or two about being premature, right?
No, I've never had a problem with that.
Is it a little premature, Norm Rumack?
I've never had a problem with prematurity, Billy. But mind you, the company that can fix that, we should get them as sponsors. It's mostly a male audience.
Okay, enough about that.
Why?
You've seen other guys, and with all due respect, was on with Rene Goulet earlier.
No,
right?
It's
Hockey.
Terry. Why Rene?
You don't remember the wrestler? Rene Goulet was one of my heroes growing up. I want to pretend that it's him. I don't know Goulet. Man, I was an athlete. I didn't have time. I didn't have time for that kind of stuff as a young guy running around the streets. Anyways, enough about that. So I was dealing with this Gooch guy, this Goulet guy, and he's telling me, as a hockey guy, and he's well established and he's a smart guy, no doubt about it.
Right.
But he's telling me 10 games into the season, he wants heads to roll. He wants Keith fired. Are you on board? You want this guy to fire? When does Norm Rumack, longtime sportscaster, when does he start to get concerned? At what stage in the process, Norm?
Well,
because a lot of people are obviously.
I think put it this way: Leaf fans are justifiably, we'll call it right now, concerned. They're saying, I don't like what I'm seeing here. And there's complete justification for that. I think the maximum Leaf fans, before it hits, panic, hitting the red buttons, maximum another 10 games and that's it. where they've got to start showing that they're capable of being a consistently good team in all areas.
So if
and I don't think another 20 games is, I've told you before, all GMs across the National Hockey League at 20 games.
Listen to the point he's going to make.
At 20 games.
He goes, all GMs, here's what he's told me in confidence. All GMs don't make any kind of calculations until the 20-25 game mark. And this guy wants to run everybody out of town.
I didn't say run.
After a long weekend in Vegas.
I'm saying nobody expected the Leafs to be struggling like this after 10 games.
They're 4-4-2, man.
But Billy, they look bad. They look bad on this road trip. Tell me they didn't look bad.
That's silliest.
Did they look bad or not?
Hey, if you want to address the Greek, go like everybody else. Ask a question down here. Don't interrupt me when I'm live on here.
Why do you think so many Leaf fans are upset? They're concerned with what they're seeing.
It's a microcosm of a societal sickness that wants instant.
Societal.
It's a societal sickness.
That's alliteration, you know.
Yeah, whatever it is, it is.
It's called alliteration.
A societal sickness that wants instant
come
gratification.
up with one more word that starts with S.
That's a proper word. Look the vocabulary. Don't make me play you in Scrabble.
How about a silly societal sickness?
Listen.
I just gave you a beautiful alliteration. You ignored it.
Listen.
God
stop
darn.
Me, okay?
I'm trying to help you reach that pinnacle of literary.
Be
literary,
like,
professorial.
The host of the fan at 2 a.m. when you and Alan are the only guys listening. Man.
That's talking about Alan in a taxi.
Yeah, the Alan in a
Why? He might have given you a free ride, Bill. You shouldn't diss the guy.
Maybe I ran him a couple of times. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, Alan, hold on. I'll be right here. I'm just going across the street to get.
Billy needs a ride home.
Yeah, see you later, Alan.
For $40.
Alan, I'm just going into this building. Hold on. My girlfriend's waiting. Just don't worry. I'll give you a little tip, Alan.
What's her name?
Man, that was a long time ago. Bleecker Street incidents, man. What do you know about the hard streets and the mean streets? All you know about Norm Rumack is the posh life, living in the suburbs, big pockets. Man, I'm a city slicker, eh, pal? You're an aristocrat. Let's get that straight.
I was a down.
You're a left-leaning aristocrat. I'm a city slicker, man. That's why the people love me.
Bathurst Manor guy. I grew up playing hockey when it was 30 below zero.
You haven't seen a street after 9 p.m. in your life, man.
Yeah, I was playing hockey when it was 10 and 11 p.m. when I was
on the fourth line. A plugger, man.
Yeah,
You've been
but my
a
coach
plugger then.
complimented me because I was a great two-way player.
Yeah, you're a plugger, man. You're a plugger then. You're a plugger now, man.
So what line did you play on?
I don't want to forget about me. I played in a different league, pal. A little bit too. It's an I surrounded myself in exclusive company, man. Nevertheless, all right. So we're gonna get to the Coastal Classic and all that in a minute.
All right.
Long and the short of it.
So give us seriously. So how long do you think the Leafs have to wait before they start?
At this point in time, what I would do if I was Sheldon Keefe, I would say like a little prayer, and I would go back and I would start fresh come tomorrow against Philadelphia. And as Babcock used to do, we play in 10-game increments. So talk to me after the next 10, right? Yeah. And I pretty much will guarantee you that the Leafs will win minimum 7 out of the next 10. And at that point in time, right? Yeah. Gooch's opinion won't change. Your opinion won't change. The majority of Leaf fans will still be anxious. So what you want to do at this point is just qualify for a playoffs later on. Anything you do in the regular season is worthless. If catastrophe strikes and you miss the playoffs, that could possibly be the best thing that happens for the organization, because at that point in time, there would be no wiggle room for Keith, Dubas, Shanahan. They haven't done the job in 6 years. Well, so maybe the worst thing in the world is Austin maybe pulling a muscle, going, oh man, and then going in a different direction, because then you were guaranteed to know that there's going to be new leadership in here. Because last year, if you guys looked at it, the Leafs were just good enough to not have everybody fired, same as the year before. If they fall flat on their faces the rest of the year, could be the greatest thing that happens. You might snag a pick, and you might bring some hockey men in here that can rejuggle a lineup. Because when you got, hold on, I'm talking. When you got Matthews and Marner, right, as your core guys, you always have a shot. Same with Edmonton, with McDavid and Draisaitl. You know, it's just about surrounding those guys with comparable players. As long as Matthews and Marner wear Leaf uniforms, they'll be able. Somebody will be able to put that puzzle together. Yeah, so it's not the worst thing if the Leafs fall flat on their face this year.
Well, let me point out to you, and intelligently so, why it could be way worse than what you think. Let's say and you see it as maybe it'd be a
so we've
great.
been talking for half an hour. Jeez,
Well, maybe
man,
10
I haven't
minutes.
even got a word in. Go ahead.
Yeah, you just had a 5-minute monologue. Anyway, so let's say if the Leafs, if it was catastrophic, they missed the playoffs, blah, 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 and they make all these changes. But here's something to keep in mind. I don't know how many, I think most Leaf fans maybe or maybe not are aware.
Speed it up, man.
Yeah, the point is next summer, the Maple Leafs are the only team that can talk to Austin Matthews, but not until the free agent contract period. They can talk to Austin about re-upping, extending his contract, but they're the only team that can do that. However, Austin can say, you know what? I want to play the field.
I want to go play in Arizona.
Well,
I want to go play in the backyard and with 3,000 people in Arizona.
Yeah, but you're forgetting something. That is his home. Yeah. Secondly, the new owners in Arizona, if I'm not mistaken, they're Mexican American.
Yeah, they're salary cap world. They can't pay him more money. Leafs can offer him the most money.
Yeah, but the point is, if Austin isn't happy with the direction the Leafs are going, he can say, you know what, I'm going to hold off. I want to explore free agency, and maybe I'll stay in Toronto. Maybe I won't. I'm just saying, if he doesn't like the direction of the team next summer, that could work.
Why don't you think? How about this then? Yeah. Why don't you? Because you think outside the box, and Matthews is so important. Why don't you let him be a coach like Goulet was coach? I
don't think he wants to be a coach.
Man, maybe you should just let him coach player. Have Mitchie assistant.
He doesn't want to coach. He wants to play. Why wouldn't you?
I don't know. At this point in time, it's a shit show down at Maple Leaf Gardens. It's a shit show. Inachek is struggling. Danny Daou hasn't scored in a week, man. And the Leafs got 40 points in the North Division. You ungrateful Leaf fans, you're witnessing some of the greatest players, yet you played in the North Division and you got 45 points a year. You couldn't even beat the Minnesota North Stars for 2 decades, and you're complaining after 10 games. Give me a break. Be quiet. Put the Costa Classic on. That's enough. Yeah, Johnny Anderson. Put the Costa Classic on. That's enough about hockey. You ungrateful Leaf fans. You finally get a chance to see greatness, and all you do is complain. You guys all deserve.
Because you're smart.
Bob
because
McGill,
you're smart.
Miro
I salute you.
Yeah.
Leafs Nation rules.
You guys are the biggest ungrateful invalids, man. You finally got somebody. You know what? Go back to petering, man. See you later.
You know what, folks? Just buy Billy a beer. Don't worry about it.
I don't drink coffee. Don't ever insult the Greek like that. A Costa Classic.
Swing into the stretch. 6th race. Second elimination of the 1997 Canadian Pacing Derby. And they're off. Village Connection has timed the gate, and Oive is up extremely fast on the outside. Time stands still is 3rd. Golden Shot Killeen taken to the inside in 4th. Slick Pavement wants in from 5th. Dr. Lecter Lobel is hung to the outside 6th at the wheel of Pacific Fella, and Winning Goalie will be last away. Village Connection driven to the front by Paul McDonnell. Oive looking at the 2-hole but staying out there. Time stands still is 3rd. Golden Shot Killeen is 4th. The opening quarter in 26 seconds. That's Village Connection on the lead, and Oive finally relented and took the tuck in from 2nd. He's 2 lengths in arrears as Village Connection is stepping right along, opening almost 3 lengths on 7 rivals into the backstretch. Oive is 2nd. Time stand still is 3rd. Golden Shot Killeen starts the flow. He's 1st to Sacrifice on the outside 4th. 5th on the outside 2nd over is Slick Pavement, brought out from 6 Pacific Fella. Then Dr. Lecter Lobel and Winning Goalie. The half is 54 seconds, and they move into the final turn, and Village Connection is still tugging hard on McDonnell and not allowing any of his rivals to get close to him. Following up in 2nd is Benoit. Golden Shot Killeen is uncovered on the outside 3rd. Time stand still is 4th. Slick Pavement is 2nd over 5th. On the outside 6th for Pacific Fella, then Dr. Lecter Lobel and Winning Goalie to the rear of the field. Village Connection clicked off 3 quarters in 1:21-4, 27-4 3rd quarter in the second Derby elimination. Village Connection brings it into the stretch. He's being the leader at every call. Here comes Pacific Fella setting sail on that leader on the outside. Winning Goalie last all the way is picked up 3rd. Golden Shot Killeen. Here comes Pacific Fella against Village Connection on down to the end. Pacific Fella with a monstrous upset at 49-1 in 150-3 over Village Connection, and it was tight for 3rd. Slick Pavement against Winning Goalie. Pacific Fella with a monstrous Canadian Pacing Derby upset.
By now, you know the name COSA TV, an industry leader producing unique, high-quality digital content promoting harness racing in Ontario. Features, virtual programming, live events, and more. COSA TV has it covered. Follow our social media channels and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page to view the latest content. And if you're looking to bet your favorite Ontario track, check out hpibet.com. COSA TV, taking Ontario racing global.
Yeah.
We are back. Thanks
right.
to COSA, our great sponsor, Standardbred Horse Racing Association. And
No, Central Ontario Standardbred Association.
Okay. Well, I've known them for a long time. They're good people. It's a lot of fun if you go to Woodbine Mohawk or where I happen to reside, your favorite racetrack. Check it out. Not only for outstanding entertainment with the ponies, but also great dining. You get to meet a lot of people. They're good about sending around the drivers and trainers, meet people who actually work in the industry. And we're grateful to have them as sponsors. I had them sponsoring my radio show on the Fan for a long time and doing a night at the track. And Billy knows them as well, so we're grateful to Costa. They support us through all kinds of situations. And thank you very much to them. All right.
Well said.
All right. So we're going to move past our little
No, we're just gonna go. We're just gonna touch on one of the guys that really follows the program dead left. He's talking about Shanahan was hired 2014 April 11th. That's 8 years in of his 5-year plan. So the long and the short of it, it's now or never for Toronto and in this whole regime. Do we agree on that point?
Yeah.
It's now or never.
Well, you mean now, meaning this season?
Yeah. Bye, Gucci.
See you, Gooch.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gooch.
So basically, the long and the short of it is now or never. We agree on that. Now.
Oh yeah.
Now means.
But where we differ is where does the time kick in for now to become like right now, or does now mean the whole season?
Yeah,
That's where people go.
and again, and when you have that passion and again the starvation of a farm that hasn't won a cup in so long, you can understand that. But again, if you go 5, 6, 7 games in a row winless, then we have a different conversation next week and the week after. But for now, nobody's getting fired later tonight.
No.
Huh?
No,
Not
no,
even
no.
you.
Not even me.
Not even you.
No.
Not even you.
But it's I can understand why Leaf fans, after especially this West Coast trip, are feeling concerned or concerned to panic or anywhere in between. It makes sense. It does make sense.
Here's what doesn't make. Here's what doesn't make sense.
What's
How
that?
sometimes the weather just chooses not to cooperate. You ever been where you have an outing where you're looking forward to something and the weather just spoils your plans? I was
course.
looking forward to walking over to the store after this and putting a big bundle of cash, maybe
On your Phillies?
on my Philadelphia Phillies. Maybe I got about $17 left in my checking account, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking about
17.
17-17. Yeah.
You need some long shot odds to make any guilt off that. No?
You're not kidding, man. You're not kidding. Turn that phone off and stop beating.
No,
me.
no.
I told you where to find that mute button. Anyways, Philadelphia. For those of you tuning in, looking forward to it. Game 3 in Philadelphia rained out tonight to be rescheduled. Jordan, do we know when the game was rescheduled for tomorrow? Yeah, rescheduled. So go into Philadelphia. One each early take from the 2 games. It's going to be a series, right?
Yeah. Well, okay. My as you may recall or may not, my prediction was Houston in 5. We'll see, but I could see it. I could see it being Houston in 6, but I haven't changed my mind.
So hold on, you said Houston in 5, but you're a little shaky. I said Philly in 6. So
Well,
who's got a better chance to win their bet, me or you? You need 4 games in a row. You think you're going to beat Philadelphia from what you saw 4 times in a row?
I'll stick with that. What the hell?
What do you?
I don't. Why Philly?
This guy, I do a sports show and I just use him because of his name from the Fed. He doesn't even watch sports no more. All he does at night is surf. Places, man, that gets real sicknesses. I don't even want to say, man. I'm surprised that phone you're holding hasn't burnt in your hands, man.
You should come over to the side.
You're a sinister individual. You guys don't know this guy well. He's a sinister individual, man.
No.
I'll tell you that. He does sports for a living. Does sports for a part-time living. Never watched a sport in the last 5 years.
Well, that's not true.
All right, what'd you watch in the NFL, man? I mean, enlighten me.
I watched your Buffalo Bills. Hey, I'll give Aaron Rodgers a little bit of credit. It was a little bit of an attempt at a comeback. I like what he said pre-game and during the week. It's like he said, it's probably the best thing for them to go into a place where no one's giving them a chance in Green Bay, Buffalo, or on the moon or on Mars to come out. But at least they showed a little bit of mustard in the last quarter. I mean, wasn't going to change the result.
What mustard did they show?
I'm saying it got a little bit interesting the last.
You know what? It got interesting for those poor saps that took Buffalo at 10. You know nothing about spreads, right? Buffalo was a 10.5-point pick. Yeah. That's where it got interesting. That's what we in the football industry call a dirty backdoor cover. Buffalo's going in to make it 31-10. Josh throws a pick, and you get a 70-yarder.
Well, anyways, Buffalo basically blew their doors off, and they did it early, but good for them. So they're still looking great, but there's no surprise there. And like I said, I give Aaron Rodgers credit. He hasn't got a whole lot around him. How many receivers are they missing now? Green Bay.
Devontae Adams is playing for the hapless Raiders. We'll get into that later. One of the worst performances of the weekend for those Raiders backers. Lost in New Orleans, 24 bingo. That means 0. But when you're talking about Aaron Rodgers, must be as frustrating as it gets for him. When he doesn't have a weapon around, when all his guys are hurt. And
they almost have to exclusively go with a ground game, and that's it. Right?
And the funny thing for me is when I'm watching Rodgers and Brady, obviously I'm a long-time viewer, so I've grown up with these guys. Hey, you start to look at these guys a little bit, right, and feel sorry for them. When you've reached a level of greatness, and then all of a sudden you see a guy and you see him as a human being, it's hard to make that adjustment to look at these guys without that vision, right? And when you watch Brady, poor bastard, last Thursday, you watch Rodgers. You just realize that their time maybe unfortunately for a variety of reasons is coming to an end. More so with Brady, but with Rodgers too. You just see him, and it's uncomfortable to listen to a guy talk about being part of the 3-5 their whole lives they've never lost, right? And we're seeing it for the first time this year.
Yeah, well, it's just like guys, not in every sport, not every player, but guys who've been all-time greats, franchise players. Sometimes they'll say about those guys, they don't know when to pack it in. They have to have people tell them because they can't even see for themselves how they've slowed down or how their game has changed. Yeah. And they need people to kind of like, come on, like go out with your head held high. Don't go out where you're just basically going from team to team and trying to fill space.
Which begs the question with Tom. You come off you lost last year, but you're coming off a great career. You got a decent looking broad there, whatever the case is. So now you're divorced. You did this, that, the other, and you're trying to hold on to football. Like his wife said it best, Giselle Bundchen, ex now, said it best when she said to him, like, hey, dude, what else you got to prove, man? Like, it's a simple question. He looked at it, what else you got to prove? And for me, what it goes to show is if you've watched Tom Brady over his recent past, that guy aged overnight. He looks old. He looks defeated. And you know what? He looks like he's got nothing in his life that inspires him, that captivates him except football. And that's a dangerous place to be for a human being, let alone a professional athlete.
I mean, but it's understandable. That is, I mean, when hasn't it been his life, right? Going back to even college at Michigan. So, and then I kind of wonder, and it's none of our business. I would never ask him, but only his friends and maybe his teammates know how much has going through a divorce affected where he's at. You got to think. I mean,
there was this old adage. Right? If you read Jimmy Johnson's autobiography, there's this adage. Jimmy was a married guy, right? Yeah. And his wife told him something, give him an ultimatum. She goes, Jimmy, this, that, the other. It's either me or football. He goes, pack your bags, man. There's a lot of guys at that point in time. Tom Brady's life was not Giselle Bundchen. He loved Tom Brady's life from a little kid's been professional football. That always comes first, and you hear it. He goes, "Oh, I love football, family." Nah, Tommy Brady, deep in your heart, man, there's one thing that you love the most in life, man, and that's being on a football field. It trumps kids, it trumps family, it trumps everything. I'm not saying you don't love those other things, but at the same point in time, Tom Brady, you know what, loves football, and he's decided that football is more important than marriage, more important than this, that, the other. That's why he's back at 45, man. Go spend some time with your family and your wife, man. Go relax. Go chill out. Because you know what? Professional athletes don't know how to relax and chill out.
Well, right? But I don't think they're the only ones who go through that. I saw a great documentary on Netflix about I want to get the name right. It was one of the Apollo 11 astronauts who years and decades after Neil Armstrong was Buzz Aldrin. Anyway, one of the astronauts, not Neil Armstrong, who's passed away.
Don't put
One
the
of
people to sleep, Norm.
No, I'm saying one of them was went through a divorce, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know which one it was. Allegedly, or the story goes, because he still wanted to kind of like live in the glory of being on the moon and being in Apollo 11. And it seemed, if the documentary was accurate, that his wife said, "Hey, look, we want you to spend more time at home." Like, I'm just saying. So I think it goes on with a lot of fellas who've been completely engrossed, or maybe women as well, engrossed in their careers, and it's not just like another job. It's a job and it's a lifestyle.
Here's what I'll tell you about Brady. Here's what I'll tell you about this cat. And it's interesting. You know what? That he just had a sheer will and spite, because here's the fortunate piece of the Tom Brady. If you consider this saga a movie, it's the fact that NFC South that he plays in, it consists of a 4-4 Atlanta team at the top of the division. So you know what's going to happen, man. This guy's going to turn it around. He's going to get one more run, man, because they're still going to win that division. Tampa Bay with Mariota's a barrage. Tampa Bay's still going to come up, and you know what? If Brady ever were to pull off a miracle it would be storybook to watch him come back and make a playoff run this year. And don't bet against the bastard, man. He's a sick human being, eh? Don't bet against him, man. I'm telling you. Yeah. Speaking of don't bet against, obviously we're not betting against our Cowboys either. 49-29 over the Chicago Bears. Interesting game.
Well, that's no surprise. But I'll tell you what the surprise was. You'd agree. How about the New York Jets getting their asses kicked?
The New York Jets? Or you meant the Giants? Jets or Giants?
All Jets.
Jets lose to New England.
They didn't look good.
But they didn't look good. But also, if you watch the game, New England was the 3.5-point favorite, so they knew something. Obviously, Belichick has owned the Jets going back a lifetime now. So Vegas was right on top of that, and you could have saw that coming again. The Jets are a developing club. They're going to have their moments. They're going to have their times. Belichick with young quarterbacks, he had a game plan for Wilson. He kept them off balance, kept them in a state of confusion rather much than I am now.
It's just that the Jets defense is dominant.
Yeah, they only give up 22, and again, you're playing 17 football games, and it's not a shock that New England will walk into the Meadowlands and beat the Jets, irrespective of the record, right? They're both clubs that are interesting, but at the end of the journey, those clubs are not the prime time clubs. So when you're talking prime time, there's only about 5 of them right now, and maybe 6. You're talking about Buffalo. You're talking about Kansas City. You're talking about Dallas. You're talking about Philadelphia. And then on the periphery, sneaking around here are the San Francisco 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks, the Baltimore Ravens, and perhaps an outside shot at the Chargers. Those are that's how the NFL is shaken out, and who can break into that, and who can break in from those outside clubs to that level. I'm not sure, but
Well, and by the way, you mentioned San Fran and the Rams. So just leave aside San Francisco for the moment. The Rams, once again, as they did in that opening game with Buffalo, is like there are times when they look good, and there are times they look like a shadow of that club from last year. I know they're missing some players, but still, it's like you don't expect like a drop off like that.
You're
Super Bowl team.
See, the drop off is interesting because you can make parallels to the Leafs. They're strong. They got Donald. They got Ramsey in the back end. You got Cooper Kupp. You got a good quarterback.
Didn't Cooper get hurt?
Sorry?
Didn't Cooper
Cooper took it. It went out late in that game against San Francisco. But again, from year to year, the fluctuation, does it surprise me? They're 3-6, or they're 3-6 now. Does it surprise me a little bit? But the year to year fluctuation and the parity in the NFL causes teams like the Giants to come out of nowhere, be 6-2. It causes upheaval, it causes confusion, and it causes interest in the markets of each individual club, because you can bounce back within a short time, whereas in other sports you've been perennially bad for forever, and it's hard to build. Like, take a look at Major League Baseball. To rebuild in the same kind of way as in football, it's not the same thing whatsoever, right? You go into the MLB, there's only about 6-7 clubs at the beginning of the year that got a shot. When you're talking about the NFL, there's about 22, right? Who could have predicted Green Bay 3-5? Tampa Bay, those were at the top of the pendulum, right?
Yeah. Well, salary cap is a big factor in keeping parity, right? in Major League Baseball, you have a luxury tax, which is not the same as a cap.
Yeah, well, here's what we need to cap, and we'll come back with the NFL. We're gonna get you queued up for the NFL Monday Nighter, but in the meantime, you called them the king of carpets. I call him the bear. That's
Nicky!
Nick Borsch, and
Good
we'll be
man.
right back after this to queue you up for the NFL Monday Nighter.
Welcome to Carpets for Life. For over 30 years, we have been servicing both residential and commercial clients in the sales and installation of custom stair runners on wall-to-wall areas. Our team prides itself in honesty with a regard of professionalism and customer satisfaction. Our many testimonials and continuous referrals is a testament of the quality of workmanship we provide. We strive to ensure a happy customer is a Carpets for Life customer.
Okay, thanks again to Nicky. Met Nicky through Billy. Good man, heart and soul guy. Devoted Habs fan. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Devoted. Wonder, he must be kind of like, not exactly depressed about the Leafs, like that.
Don't get me started.
Well,
We're ready to wrap
what?
it up. Don't get me started again on Toronto Maple Leafs. Don't get me started again, Norm. Obviously, there's cause for concern, and we'll just leave it at that. But here's what we're not concerned about. Cincinnati, what's the line, Jordan, on the game as it currently stands? Last week I was right. You were wrong for the second week in a row. I don't know. We'll just get into that. We'll get Norm's pick, and then obviously I'll give you the goods.
Yeah, what
28-20 on the year, the record stands. Which is still not bad. Not what I want it to be. 3-3 weekend, which obviously is.
What's your percentage?
60%, 59 to 60%.
Yeah.
But I've struggled this year, and I've never found football.
Huh?
I've never found football more difficult than I have this year, right? So for a guy like me, even at 28-20, I'm struggling. Like other guys struggle, they're like 10 games in. I'm struggling this year to envision and anticipate everything that's happening. I'm a guy that had the Raiders this week, and I'll be honest. You go into that game and you're thinking LA playoff, put 40 game seconds, and you walk into New Orleans with a quarterback and they got shut out. There's certain things that I'm not seeing properly, and hopefully that'll change within a short time. Hang with me, and I'll try to give you a little bit better as I move forward.
Okay, so what is it?
28-20 still is not bad, but we want to provide better than that. And over the course of the last 3 years, I have. Perfect weeks are coming soon. As for the game Monday night,
What was the spread again?
Cincinnati travels to Cleveland to the Dogtown as 3-point underdogs.
I'm gonna pick the Bengals to win by 7. I'm with that.
I like, you know what? I couldn't agree with you more. Usually, if there's a trend around here over the last while that Monday nighters go to the underdog. They went to the underdog against the Raiders. Denver covered as an underdog, but this week I'm going nowhere but right on your back. Cincinnati and Cincinnati big left side to make the final 38-10. 38-10, 38-17. I think the Bengals are.
Am I right? I don't think Mr. Burrows is getting sacked as much as he was.
No, not only is Burrows not in that position, but also you got Jacoby Brissett on the other side. Not really invokes the most confidence in me. And again, I give Cincinnati a small chance to do damage moving forward, as opposed to Cleveland. So if you have that and you're deciding who you want, I can take the 3 points. I don't think you're going to need the points today, Norm. I think Cincinnati does it well.
Yeah. I don't think it's a big sweat. So we're almost out of time. Is that right?
We're coming to an end. We got emotional at the beginning, but here's what I'll tell you: it's always a pleasure to be with the good people at the bottom line. Right? I'm exhausted. I'm going over for a smoke. I'll catch you guys on Sunday doing the NFL previews. Norm will be putting something out in the meantime for those of you that
we're
watch.
doing, by the way, I must say, a World Cup soccer.
Who's on with that? Who you got on?
Well, I will keep it as we're going to have a really good guest. James Sharman, you might remember him from Sportsnet when Sportsnet was carrying Premier League games. So James will join us, and he's going to Qatar, by the way, to take in the tournament. So
will he be reporting live from Qatar?
Well, I'm going to talk to him about it. We can try. I think in that part of the Middle East, it's probably about an 8-hour time difference between them and us. So I don't know if we can work it out, but we'll see. But the main thing is we're going to get him on for a preview on November 7th. Get his thoughts on Canada, a tough group with Belgium and Croatia and Turkey, especially all due respect to Belgium and Croatia are really solid. They've been solid for a long, long time. But we'll see. Canada, the one thing we know about Canada, they work their ass off. They work hard. They play with pride in the badge. So they're going to give it everything. That I can guarantee you. They're going to give everything they have. So I think that's why Canadians are.
You know what's interesting during World Cup time, especially in Toronto, you get a different variety of flags, colors. It'd be interesting to see, for me, out of curiosity this year,
right. Yep.
how Canadiana plays, though,
Wow.
in terms of some of our
Communities.
some of our communities that have different ties, how they
Well, one of the biggest isn't involved. Like Italy is
not
in
involved.
Mega. Yeah, so there's one of the biggest. I think it's the second largest Italian diaspora, would be the right way to put it, population outside of Italy, other than I think Rio de Janeiro, something like that. So for our great large Italian community in the GTA to not have the Azzurri in the tournament. And you wonder, maybe they're going to go by who their favorite club players are playing for, because obviously each team, whichever team you follow, the guys are scattered all over the world for most of the big clubs in Europe. So who knows what they're.
How do you feel? Like, for example, how do you feel Belgium plays Canada? How do you feel about Belgium flags flying around on Canadian?
Well, there aren't. I don't think you'll see much of that, and I say that because I don't think there's a whole lot. There are some. There's a lot of people who've moved here from France. But I don't think there's a large expatriate. No, there's not a large contingent of Belgians.
So if you're Italian, if you're Italian, Missouri, what are you doing? You're going with the Canadian flag or the Italian flag?
Oh, they're going. I'm sure. Well, because Italy isn't involved in the tournament.
Yeah.
Like why? I mean, it would. Like I think for folks who follow the Azzurri, I think probably they're embarrassed that their team is not in the tournament. It was a big embarrassment.
I'll tell you this. If I lived in Belgium and I flew a Canadian flag down Main Street in Belgium, and they throw tomatoes at me, it's a little.
They wouldn't care.
Yeah.
They'd say, "Oh, I'm a big hockey fan."
Yeah,
No, but I'm saying, like, people are now getting familiar with the idea that Canada has grown. Obviously, our women's team for a long time, and the men's team has now grown. So I don't think anybody's going to be taking Canada lightly, because Canada
I'm not
goes.
talking about that. I'm talking about the demographics, the people. How somebody that lives in Canada can support another club and show that outwardly. You have a problem with that?
No, it's like, no, Canada's always been that way, where you go to a Canada soccer team. It used to be the case. You go to a Canada national soccer team, especially on the men's side, and they're playing Name the Country, and about half the stadium is cheering for the other. They're like, I don't want to pick on a kind. I'm just saying that's the way. And soccer fans or footy fans in Canada would get upset. It's like, you can cheer for your home team, but cheer for, like, carry two flags. That's what people have been saying. Carry a Canadian flag.
What are you going to carry? You're going to carry Canadian? What else?
Well, definitely carry the Canadian flag. And I can say that for a lottery, including Alphonso Davies, in the home he grew up in. His dad is a huge Chelsea fan and a fan of Didier Drogba. And even Alphonso Davies, the star of Team Canada, said, "Yeah, of course, I grew up watching Chelsea." So anyway, I'm gonna wear a Canada soccer jersey to the show next week. I've got one.
Just make sure it's not a tank top.
Well, that would be even better. I was thinking of cutting off the sleeves, Billy. Give it that summertime feel.
Something to look forward to, folks.
It's like 100 degrees.
Something to look forward to next week. Norm Rumack in a tank top. It was a pleasure. It's a pleasure spending a little bit of time with you guys on behalf of COSA, Carpets for Life, and the good people at the bottom line. 22
Thanks, folks. God bless.
Thank you, Jordan Larage, that continues to do a great job.
Thanks,
Absolutely. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks. Bye for now.
God bless.